2, 1. We did it.
Hooray! Yay, we're here again.
The Website 101 podcast, Lunch Bytes, are here. I am Mike Mella, and joining me is...
Sean
Hi,
Smith.
I'm Amanda.
Damn it, I knew that wasn't going to work because I didn't plan it in advance. I knew you'd talk over each other.
I didn't know who was going to say what.
It's like,
Amanda
I waited a
Lutz
quarter
and Sean
second.
Smith.
Amanda wasn't doing anything, so I just went and then...
I was. Because I knew...
Well, there's lag
that
between us, I think.
I knew that you were gentleman enough to like give me that pause. I was going to jump in on it. And
Next
but
time.
obviously not gentlemanly enough.
maybe.
Not
No, but
gentleman
you know what?
enough.
Also, you were ready to jump in and save the day when you thought that I wasn't stepping up.
Look at
to
it
the
that way.
plate.
That's right.
Look at it that
Yeah.
way.
Anyways,
All right, how's everybody doing? Sean, you sound like you got the sniffles. What's going on?
allergies are kicking my butt all over the place.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not doesn't seem like a particularly allergy day here in Toronto, but no, I guess I don't know.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
okay today.
It depends
but
on the phase
yeah.
of the moon sometimes.
Yeah. Last week, he kicked my butt hard. I think that since about midsummer, I've gone through 3 of those bottles of the decongestant saline nasal spray because I'm just always congested. I don't know what's going on.
Not fun. Normally I'm okay because I do allergy shots. I don't know why this week they're just not helping out at all. So, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm good. I speaking of noise and not noise, about discomfort and whatnot on this live thing. There's a construction happening in the house next door, so you may hear me. You may not hear me when I mute my microphone once in a while, but
That's okay.
I'll be doing everybody a favor, not talking for once.
Vamp a little bit and come up with a fancy little song to sing while you both cut out.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
just trying to
I'll play some
entertain
sound
the
effects.
masses by myself.
Right.
So last week you guys went to a conference. The
We did.
FITC. What was the title of the one? FITC something?
Web Unleashed.
Web Unleashed. So how was that? Let's give me all the dirt. What did you learn?
Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to do a great big memory dump. Wes Boss. I want to be his best friend. He had this really cool talk about AI and how he does a lot of things about processing through and using AI, like, for example, ChatGPT or whatever other service that he uses to do things like get the transcripts for all of his podcasts and then summarize all of them. And from that, he gets the AI to like generate a certain number of tweets that can be made, and just all of these. He just went he went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and he admitted laughingly at the end that he spent probably lots more time on this project than he should have. But it was just so cool to see somebody, practically using the AI for a purpose that could potentially in future supposedly save you time to make things, like to be able to get content and create archives and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool.
That does sound really cool. It sounds like it maybe a lot of time up front, but once you get the process smoothed out, it could be a big time saver.
Yeah, he did say that with some of the services he's using, the cost was starting to jack up, especially in the beginning when he was trying to process over 600 podcast episodes. If it's like $1 a query, I can see that.
He was doing more than just like, oh, I need an idea for my blog post. I'll go in ChatGPT and ask for some ideas. It was way more than that. Like he showed these tools where he could like intelligently figure out, what was it, like what part of a podcast episode was about something and generate tweets about that particular segment and link to it. And it was really crazy. Like he was doing
wow.
When in the transcript, they could tell between the different speakers and at what time the next speaker was in the transcript. And then at the end, a cumulative, this person talked about this for so many minutes, talked about cumulatively this many minutes, and that person cumulatively talked for that many minutes. And then because it had all of that information, you could then go back to like his bot that he made with all this AI and be like, oh, hey, what does Wes think about this topic? And because all of the webcasts were transcribed, the bot would be able to, early in 2020, Wes thought this, but then later in 2024, Wes thought that. So it's like it was cool and crazy.
Wow, that does sound really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his microphone was a little hot. So we were up close, and it was like pretty loud, but
he was loud.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel it helped with the enthusiasm, so that was good.
It did. Yes,
I really liked Chris Croker. Was that his name?
Chris Coyer.
Chris Coyer. He was talking about some advanced CSS, and it's not even advanced, and it's not even new, but it's just like CSS properties that I didn't know existed. Like for example, instead of like setting, instead of doing like margin left is going to be so much amount, it was like margin block beginning, because depending on the language, if it's like left to right language, or if it's a right to left language, and so you would maybe want the margin not to be on the left or on the right, but you would want it to be like at the beginning of the content. So it was like, oh, that's cool too.
Yeah, Chris is a super good presenter. Like we've seen him a few times, and he's always got everything really tight, what he talks about. And yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff about CSS variables and things like that was just really awesome. It's kind of hard to keep up with it. It's only like a 45-minute talk, and you're just like, what? Fortunately, it's all available online for people who were there, I guess. But
yeah,
anyway.
And then sounds like I missed a couple of good presentations.
There were a couple of good presentations, and then there were some that were like totally gave me imposter syndrome. Like beyond. Who is the first presenter on the Sunday, Mike? What was her name? Do you remember?
Was that
Eva?
Leah Veru?
Yeah,
I think her name is.
Yeah. So Leah works at MIT, but she's also part of the working group of the W3C, which comes up with all of like the CSS standards and everything. So her talk was about native CSS nesting. But in order to talk about that, she had to give the whole audience a little bit of a primer of how browsers will go through the style sheet and tokenize each character to figure out if it's a selector or if it's a property or if it's a value. And so she's like, it was a deep dive that I had no idea about, had never considered before. And it was interesting, but it was like, holy expletive. Like the people who are coming up with this stuff,
they're smart.
Actually, Sean, I have some questions for you about Leah's talk. So
like I was there.
I'm questions about your thoughts on her opinion. So one of them was, I'll get this one out of the way first. Someone asked about Tailwind. Like you can ask questions at the end, right? So inevitably someone said, what about Tailwind? Now, I'm not satisfied with her answer because I'm paraphrasing, but she said something like, the true answer is use whatever tools make your team the most productive, which is great. But then she elaborated and said something to the effect of, I don't think Tailwind is a good idea because you can't tell what it's doing when you look at it. That's kind of what she was saying. And I was thinking,
doesn't know what Tailwind is.
I would say the exact opposite. Yeah, that's exactly what I got from it. I don't think she's looked at Tailwind.
I don't know her. I wasn't at the presentation, but based on what you said, it sounds to me like she doesn't use Tailwind. She's aware of it because it's like the biggest thing going. And maybe she's kind of stuck in the separation of concerns. And, like traditionally how we would have JavaScript and CSS and HTML all separated.
Yeah.
Tailwind doesn't do that. It's right in your CSS. So to me, it seems like she doesn't really get it at a gut level of what Tailwind gives us.
Yeah, I'm fine if people don't want to use Tailwind. Amanda doesn't use Tailwind, and I don't care if people don't want to use it. But to say, like, imagine like an element that says whatever class card dash primary versus whatever class BG white text black shadow. Like, which of those two things explains to you what's happening?
Like I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, like, so her specific argument that you can't tell what it's doing, I thought, like, what, really? Like I
Yeah,
get there are arguments against it, but I don't know if that's one. Anyway,
yeah.
that was one thing. Here's another thing I want to ask you.
I'm not a big
I don't
fan.
remember
well,
her saying that.
I'm not a
Okay,
big
well,
fanboy about Tailwind. I like it. I love it, but
Yeah.
I'm on the camp of if it works for you,
Like it.
if it works for you, use it. If you don't like it, use something else.
Yeah. I'm not a fanboy, but I like it. I love it.
Hey, maybe I like Tailwind. Maybe I love Tailwind. Who knows?
All right. Oh, okay, thanks for calling me out. Mike had a question for me. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have one more
more
question from Leah's talk. She mentioned that she talked about SAS, because it was all about nesting, and SAS started the nesting thing, I guess. And she said that concatenation, and the definition quickly would be like card, and then you'd have a rule about it, and then you'd have, I guess, ampersand dash primary.
Yep.
Right. Using the BEM syntax. So you'd be defining, okay, this is the primary type of that card. And then lower down, you'd have a different type all nested inside the card rule. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
She said
I know exactly what you're saying.
Great. She said that is not good practice. It's frowned upon. And the people who made SAS regret adding that functionality. And it's not advised to do that. Did you know that? I had no idea that was true.
Okay, I heard something about BEM not being like the greatest thing, but I don't know. I don't really like BEM, so I don't really pay much attention to it. But I love nesting, and I've used nesting, but not in a BEM approach. And I'm glad that nesting is either here or almost here. I can't remember. In native CSS, there's some differences, and I listened to a Syntax FM podcast recently that talked about it. So yeah, maybe it's not great, but I don't care. Nesting, if I'm actually writing CSS rather than using Tailwind, I want to be able to nest.
Yeah, no, I think what Mike was saying was that in Leah, in her talk, she was for the nesting, and she was for like using the ampersand like to continue the selector, but was indicating that it was probably poor practice to use that concatenation to create a BEM, a more longer extensive BEM class name.
Yeah, because you created a new element by doing it, right?
Yeah,
you're
creating part, a new element. I would agree with her on that part, but that could be just me not liking or getting how BEM works.
So, yeah, because I do use, I mean, now I use Tailwind, but when I have to write CSS, I do use the BEM syntax. I quite like it. And I never knew that creating these new rules by nesting and concatenating one class into another class sort of thing was bad practice. But anyway, I'm glad I learned something there. So that was
I heard something about it, but like I said earlier, I'm not really a big BEM fan, so I didn't pay too much attention to it.
Yeah.
Well, we also met Jessica Janiak, I think is her name, right? She was super charming. We met her because we were standing there in the hallway before it started, and she just sidled up to us and said hi. And
she just walked over and started talking. Yeah, she was great.
She works for Google.
She works on the Angular team at Google.
Yeah.
So creating Angular.
Yeah.
Yes, like a senior engineer at Google, and she's great, and she is the biggest nerd you've ever heard. She describes herself that way.
Yeah, her puns are awful.
The puns and Star Wars references and Star Trek and superhero stuff. She does cosplay on the side. Like, couldn't be a bigger nerd.
Sounds like she could be a side character in The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, sort of along those lines.
Yeah.
Super smart.
I mean, she was super nice though. Really easy to talk to, which was cool. So I do want to say something else about the conference, and this is something that Mike and I have discussed already. So some of the students from Seneca came, which was really cool, and we saw them the first day, and I didn't see them the second day, and I don't know if that was pre-planned, or I don't know if they like couldn't make it or didn't have interest in the topics that were happening. But I did notice that a lot of the talks at the conference were about what did they call it? It's not component.
Oh yeah.
What was the C word?
C word. Component, composer, composable.
Everything was about composable modules, which is where you like basically break it out into a component. And so they were even talking about, like, the majority of the talks were about, the headless CMS and all the API calls and keeping everything separate, and a little bit that does this and a little bit that does that. And somebody, I forget who the speaker was, but he had a presentation talking about how they made this site for an automaker. So it was like 15 different brands, and so 15 different websites and kiosks and branding for marketing, and how it's all supposed to be cohesive and working together. And I felt bad for the students because like this presenter was talking about, again, the headless CMS and the React and all of the different components for the different parts and how you can break it down. And again, it's like I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, because it's like, I'm not working on big stuff like that. So I felt like although it was a really great talk and it was very interesting, I felt that a lot of the topics were maybe a little bit alienating. I know it's hard when you're like planning a conference, especially like the first one back after everything was shut down. It's hard to like make a balance of the presentation topics. But I feel like maybe it would have been nice to get a little more of a heads up about maybe like skill level, or
I kind of remember I went to
instead of just the title. Like,
I went to an FITC conference in the before times, a long time ago. And I remember that their presentations had tags on them. I hope I'm remembering this correctly, like beginner, intermediate, advanced. They didn't do that this time?
No.
Well, not only that,
but
it wasn't a multi-track thing. Like it was one presentation at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because this wasn't like the big conference. This was like just a mini conference.
Yeah. So if you saw a talk, it was the only one going on at the time.
Yeah. You're there or you're not. So yeah, I mean, like shout out to Sean, who organizes FITC, a different Sean, who organizes all the FIT stuff. And it's got to be, especially after the last couple of years and everything is uncertain and nobody wants to meet up in person. So the first one back, and I'm sure it was very stressful, and he had a lot of things on his plate. And I liked it. I thought it was a good, conference to go to. But it's just, there were a couple of times where it was just like, holy shit, this is beyond me. So
yeah, it was a lot of it was over. There were 3 talks about Angular. 3. By the way, there was another one the next day, Amanda. I tuned into some of the
3 talks
online
that I'd be
ones.
skipping because I don't use Angular or have no interest in it.
I haven't heard about Angular in years, and all of a sudden 3 talks. I guess I'm out of the loop with that. But yeah, some of it was totally like over my head. And I do wish that they would do more. I don't know, whatever basic. We were talking as we left. What could talks be about?
Specific.
Yeah. Things that apply to anyone in our industry, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe we should do such talks. We should try to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, that was one of our goals, right? To try to find conferences to maybe submit papers to speak at or whatever.
Yeah. Still really psyched to try to do something for PodCamp, which is coming up. Hopefully, I think it's coming up. I better check in on that. But
it was February this year, so
yeah.
Allergies are
I'm trying to see if I got a sneeze sound effect here. I don't think so.
No. Well, you don't need one if I keep my mic on.
Yeah, I know, right? Gesundheit. There you
go. Want to comment that I wish I'd gone to the conference now, just to hear the talk by Wes Boss and Chris Quay and the woman that you just talked about, the one that was the Google woman. I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Oh,
Jessica. I think all 3 of those would have been worth going, and I probably should have gone.
Yeah, and actually, didn't a colleague of yours give a talk, Amanda? What was his name? About
Joel Hardy.
Joel.
Yeah, he was also talking about I forget the C word.
Yes, and also very high level. A lot of
composable.
Composable.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's right. Composable. Not compost.
Not compostable.
Yeah.
That would be my lunch.
Yeah. But and then another thing that I thought was really interesting was that one of the talks on Sunday that we didn't go to, I don't know if this was the one that you said that you watched online, was about SSR. So like doing server-side rendering. It was like SSR seemed to be this very big thing and why it's necessary and it's like a few years ago, everything was server-side rendered. And then it would be given to the browser and the browser would display it. And now, because of all these front-end frameworks and React and JavaScript doing so much more, it's like all of this additional rendering and content changing things are being handled by the browser. And now it's like they're swinging back and saying, no, more should be done by the server. And it's like,
yeah, we've been through this already. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see that talk, no, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they should, because you're right about the students going, like, if you're trying to, nurture this kind of stuff in younger people or people getting into the industry, you can't just have a bunch of talks about React and stuff. Like, I don't know. Well, I don't know. It's not like they can give
Amanda's a teacher, and she was getting imposter syndrome at this conference. If your teacher is getting imposter syndrome and you're like a second year student or a first year student, what are you doing at the conference?
Like, no, okay. See, that's the thing.
And I'm taking that to the extreme because I know that there'd be some things would be useful. Probably like Wes Boss's talk would be interesting, Chris Coy's, and some other ones that I'm unaware of.
Yeah. And I've said this before on like podcast episodes and probably here in a Lunch Bytes. It's hard, especially by that fourth semester, to balance the topics in the assignments between the students who are more design oriented and the students who are more development oriented. So I'm sure for a conference like this, it would be very difficult to balance all of the topics between more novice developers and versus Angular developers versus, like some other very, I don't want to say niche, but some other developer that's interested in a different technology. So
what else?
Overall, I thought it was good, but
agreed. And you know what else they didn't? I noticed they didn't really focus on. There were a lot of talks where it was like, I work for a team at Google or whatever, and our job is to produce something for another team at Google or whatever. Like, there wasn't a lot of like, I work with clients directly, and here's something that you could learn about having that relationship. There was none of that virtually. So I think that would have been valuable for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know if they're the audience for that talk. Maybe that kind of thing is more technical.
Again, the guy who was talking about the project for the car manufacturer with the 15 brands. I mean, that's, I guess, is kind of client related. But
then again, yeah, exactly. It's an enormous client that most people wouldn't have experience working with.
Yeah.
I also I wonder how many developers who are not freelancers are actually interacting directly with clients. Wouldn't that normally go through like a project manager at your agency?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Maybe.
Even there though, like I bet there's lots of room for, I was saying what you call soft skills, like talks where about working with relationships, even in an office,
I want to see more soft skill talks, like at any conference. I need help.
I think we should give those talks.
Not if he needs help. Is he going to be the cashier?
I can help you. I can help you in our talk.
No, I mean, like everybody needs help at some level with it. There's things that I know I could improve, and there's some things that I could help somebody else improve with. But yeah.
It's important though. Everybody needs to do it.
If you have the opportunity to watch something, it could remind you about something that maybe you used to do, but you're not doing as much as you could. That.
Yes.
In the soft skill, and I should get back into doing this, or it will help me get better at my relationship with my odd colleague or whatever.
Well, and that, I know that a lot of people in this industry, even just basing it on that conference, I could tell that a lot of the speakers and people who are participating are probably neurodivergent in some way. Like they're not good with people. Like a lot of times when you're super intelligent like that, maybe you're not, that's just the truth. So I think a lot of the audience there could benefit from, social type interacting with, whether it's with clients or colleagues or whatever. I bet there's a lot of people. There's a lot of shoegazing going on.
But too, it's like you can't have that same talk at all of the tech conferences that are ever going to exist, right? So I mean, like it's going to be in some, and it's not going to be in others, and this one just didn't happen to happen. guess.
Anyways, to bring back the Big Bang Theory, I think Mike is saying that a lot of the developers are Sheldon types.
I mean, they're smarter than I am.
They're definitely smarter than I am.
I don't watch that show. I don't really know what
This
you're
is
talking about.
this is when we all get canceled. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm not. I'm just whatever.
It was just a joke.
Whatever.
Maybe I need help with my soft skills.
That's
There you go.
always the defense when people get canceled. Can't you take a joke?
So, any other talks that you want to talk about, or should we wrap it up?
I think we covered the weekend pretty good.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gone now after hearing all this.
Yeah, it's too bad you weren't there. It was cool. It is better, I think, to have a conference where there is different tracks and you can pick and choose, because there was a lot of like talks where the audience was kind of sparse.
Yeah.
And I mean, we didn't even attend them all ourselves, so I don't know if there were fewer people in those ones as well. But when there's only one talk you can go to and you don't want to go to it, maybe a lot of people are thinking that, and then it's half empty kind of thing. So.
But you can use those opportunities for networking.
Yeah.
Like out in the hall.
We did network with people a little bit.
We talked with people some.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Anyways. All right.
Okay.
Should we wrap her up?
I gotta take off and go read more documentation.
Yay.
Yay.
Wait. It's not the best.
Look at us with the sound effects.
That's not my mood right now, but if that's
Okay, whatever. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next
Thanks,
time.
guys. The stream